want something? All I've got to my name's my father's trousers and a bad hangover. So piss off.
Back in 2012, a young me ran to a game in my hometown and bought a copy of Kingdoms of Amalur and spent at least a whole 2 days playing it before I started playing Modern Warfare or Gears of War 2 again. Now, in 2019, 7 years later, let's see if it can hold my attention a little longer. And while we're at it, answer the question of, is Kingdoms of Amalur still fun in 2019? The art style of this game is beautiful in my opinion. The cartoony fantasy world can never be outplayed for me. Much like the original Fable, it will always have charm and wonder to me, especially when entering a new ecosystem in the game, dungeon, town, city, anything like that. I would love to see this game get a remastered version with upscale textures and better graphical options that are more on par with the newer PC standards that we have today. Adding in an option to disable some of the bloom and increase the FOV, the field of view, would be a huge adjustment to the game for me and keep me sucked into this world for a lot longer periods of time. This game is always recommended to people who are looking for a single player MMO experience, and it's easy to see why. It looks like World of Warcraft and it plays a lot like it too. The world is full of large scale environments with resources and hidden treasures and pockets of enemies to slay, which ring true of just about any MMO I've ever played. Entering a new town will jam up your quest log with at least another 3 or 4 new quests to complete. Not to mention the quests that can be picked up just from travelling to the towns either. You will want to do a lot of these side missions though, as they can really speed up the slow leveling that Kingdoms of Amalur gives to you. The controls are pretty tight. Combat is fun and responsive. You can take a little while to get used to though, as you can't roll out of the way of every attack, especially when you're in a mid-attack animation yourself. The ability to equip a primary and secondary weapon, as well as a shield, is a really nice change to combat. Differs itself from Fable in the way you could have 2 melee weapons and your shields. Holding groups of enemies back with chakrams is awesome. Then finishing them off with swift Feyblades feels great. I would, however, have liked to see more diversity with weaponry, but what you get given is decent enough, and it's going to pass the time by. The story is maybe one of the weaker parts of the game for me, as it just feels like an MMO, where I just want to skip over half the dialogue so I can get back to killing things, exploring and raising my level and skills, because I love seeing those numbers rise. But from what I've gathered, it's a fairly interesting story in some ways. You're raised from the dead and thus become some sort of, well, it wouldn't be unfair to say, a super weapon. Plenty of people have plans for the world, but your powers can put a stop to that, so they want you dead immediately. Not entirely groundbreaking, not entirely plain. It'll pass. Apart from that though, side stories are mildly interesting, but have no real impact. For example, early in the game you can sacrifice a village of 10 people to someone who controls spiders, and if you do that, nothing happens. The villagers remain dead, the spiders don't take over the town, she doesn't move into the town, you still keep your lovely house there, nothing happens. There are just no villagers, because I slaughtered them all with my chakrams of death. So, can I recommend people play Kingdoms of Amalur in 2019? Because it's still fun? Yeah, I can. It's cheap these days, and it's got a lot of playtime in it. It's still gorgeous to look at. It's just nice. It's a nice game to play. It's a nice breath of fresh air from the RPGs we get today that try to add so many systems but never deliver well enough on all of them, or indeed any of them sometimes. It's just fun, alright? I started it up at 11 PM and had to wean myself away from it at 2 AM in the morning because I had work early the next day. But this game came first, so I stayed up for 3 hours playing it into the night. I know that's not a mega sesh, but it was still enough to get me through a night, even a week. Hell, I've been playing it a week now. I'm not afraid to admit that. It's fun. It's a nice breath of fresh air, like I said, from modern RPGs that are so brown and boring and take themselves so seriously. So, is Kingdoms of Amalur still fun in 2019? Yeah, it is. Chakrams, baby!